and welcome to the JLS Webinar. In this webinar, we will discuss the recent published JLS article, Efficiency of Video-Based Teacher Professional Development for Increasing Classroom Discourse and Student Learning. We are very glad to invite the author team and the two panelists in this field. And for the agenda today, first we will start with the authors introducing the article, followed by the panelists share their comments on this piece, and then we will leave the time for discussion, questions, and comments. We are interested in what motivates you to come to this webinar, whether you are interested in the technology or the design or the series of video-based PD. So you may introduce yourself briefly in the chat and also leave what angle are you looking at when you read this paper. Would the authors and panels say a few words and say hi to everyone?
Okay, I start. I'm Gaowei. It's great to see you. I'm from the University of Hong Kong. My research interest includes classroom discourse, online discussion, and teacher professional development. It's great to see you, and hope we have good time together.
I am Gaowei Chen. I am from the University of Hong Kong. My area is in collaborative knowledge building, computer-supported collaborative building, and then I also research in the area of teacher professional development.
And I'm Kennedy Chen from the Faculty of Education, the University of Hong Kong. My research focuses on science teacher professional knowledge and practice, particularly their pedagogical content knowledge and their professional noticing. So I'm very glad to see you all.
Thanks. I'm Sara Hennessy from the University of Cambridge in the UK. My interests are in classroom dialogue, teacher professional development, and educational technology use. And I'm also representing my research group, the Cambridge Educational Dialogue Research Group, which the authors are all international associates of. So thank you very much for having me.
Hi, I'm Miriam Sherin from Northwestern University in the United States. Delighted to be here. My research looks at teacher learning and the role of video, particularly around teacher noticing.
Thank you, and welcome all the authors and panelists again to join the conversation. First of all, let's invite the author team to introduce the article briefly. So Dr. Chen, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Lillian. So I'm Carol, Kennedy, and I we are going to spend a few minutes introducing the paper. All right. We know a classroom talk is very important to student learning. However, teachers often have difficulty in guiding student discussion in the classroom. So how can we help teachers learn and foster productive talk in the classroom? Actually, researchers have been using videos to support the teacher professional development. Because videos are convenient, they are vivid, they are authentic, and videos can be used repeatedly. So more and more researchers are using videos to support teacher professional development. However, when teachers use videos, they often lose focus or become distracted, because we all know that video contains a large amount of information. So how to have teachers to focus on the meaningful information is a question. To address this problem, actually, researchers have been developing many different solutions or approaches. In this study, we developed the classroom discourse analyzer, the CDA, to transform a video into multiple visual representations. And also, CDA can provide interactive visualizations to aid navigation. And as you can see on the screen, the video, the transcripts, and the visualizations are synchronized. So this kind of combination can support evidence-based discussion. And in the study, we used the CDA to support video-based PD, and we designed an experiment to test the effect. And we had 3 research questions. The first one is, would the intervention teachers increase productive talk in the classroom compared to the comparison teachers? The second question is, how does the students this kind of PD improve students' mathematics achievement scores? And finally, of course, we are interested in knowing how and why would this visualization supported video PD approach make a difference. As you can see on the screen, we designed an experiment. We had 24 intervention teachers and 22 comparison teachers. Of course, they were all mathematics teachers, secondary mathematics teachers. The biggest difference between the two groups of teachers is here. And for the intervention teachers, they used visualization supported video PD workshops 3 times in the first semester, 2 times in the second semester. But for the comparison teachers, they didn't receive the visualization supported video PD support. And in a typical PD workshop, we designed 6 tasks for the teachers. Of course, the second stage, the hands-on use with CDA is the key part. And in this stage, we asked the teachers to discuss with each other with the support of CDA. And also, as the facilitator, I showed the teachers selected cases. So the teachers would have opportunities to discuss. And also, of course, as the facilitator, I also joined the discussion. I think this part is very important because it's similar to Professor Sara Hennessy, the collaborative video analysis, in which teachers and the facilitators discuss, analyze the videos. It's also similar to Professor Miriam Sherin's video clubs, in which teachers had opportunities to discuss about the videos. I would report several results. The first one is the impact on teachers' use of talk moves. Actually, teachers improved the use of several talk moves after the intervention. For example, say more, press for reasoning, challenge, agree, disagree, and add on. Of course, there were several talk moves which did not have much improvement, including revise, restate, and explain other. And as for the students, actually students improved their mathematics achievement test scores after the intervention. Of course, it's a small but significant effect. The Cohen's D is here. It's quite small, but it's significant. In terms of the change to the classroom talk, we used Ms. Lam, the case teacher's classroom. As you can see from the screenshots, before the intervention, Ms. Lam's classroom is like this. Not many talk moves, but after the intervention, she improved a lot in using various talk moves. And also in Ms. Lam's classroom, as you can see, before the intervention, there were not a lot of students who spoke. Most of the talk was from Ms. Lam, 94%. But after the intervention, a lot of more students spoke in the discussion. And Ms. Lam spoke less, only 72%. So it's a big change from pre-intervention to post-intervention. Here we can see 2 workshop excerpts. And we can see how the teachers discussed with each other in the PD workshops. They discussed about the talk moves, the challenge, and they compared their use of talk move, the talk move. They said, okay, I don't have any press for reasoning or challenge. I have one, me too. So they used the CDA to support their data navigation. And in the next workshop excerpt, we can see they used the data to as evidence to support their discussion. And also based on the evidence showing in the CDA, the visualization evidence, they planned for change. So the teacher said, I need to pay more attention to that. My words need to be trimmed and simplified. So here we can see the effect of the visualization on teachers' discussion and their planning for change. And there were several implications. The first one is that the study demonstrated the efficacy of video and visualization PD for increasing classroom talk and student learning. And of course, the multiple visualizations supported or increased the efficacy of video data selection and navigation. So it's data selection and navigation. And finally, the visualizations can help teachers recognize how they are teaching are different or similar from each other. And this kind of awareness or evidence can support their discussion and collaborative learning. As for future research, we thought about this, and we think in the future, maybe the research can investigate how teachers develop their skills in different discourse moves. Because in this study, the teachers did not improve equally on the different moves. And also, we should develop more visualization tools specifically for teachers. In designing the tools, we could incorporate advanced technologies to create more effective and efficient visualizations. For example, we could use more automated transcribing and coding, and we could also incorporate learning science theories and technologies in the development. And finally, it's also the work we are currently doing. We are developing an online video and visualization-based PD environment to overcome the constraints of face-to-face meetings at the workshops, because during the pandemic, it's even more difficult for teachers to get together to have the professional development meetings. Okay, the research team, we have 3 authors who are here today. We also have Chris Clark and Lauren Resnick, who will not be able to join the webinar today. And we would like to thank the journal editors and the reviewers for their comments and suggestions. And we also would like to thank the funding agencies. Okay, that's the presentation from me. I think Karen Kennedy might want to say more. Yeah.
It's my great pleasure to have worked with Gaowei and Kennedy. I am a learning sciences person, so I will say a few things from what I see this paper from the learning sciences lens. And you heard the paper. So I'm thinking, what's actually the problem that we are working on, and why is it important for learning sciences, and why is it important for video PD? So the problem is that our team of Gaowei, of course, that's Gaowei's work, but we together investigate, it's really designing video support for teacher learning in a very important context of classroom dialogue. So this is the problem that we want to work at. And why is it important for learning sciences? Why would JLS, I think, want to publish this paper? Because it's essentially, it's about designing productive learning environment. But this is we talk about it often for classroom, but it's really designing creative, productive learning environment for teacher learning. So that's how I see the learning sciences part. There's the learning science part because of the role of technology. So Gaowei did he of course, CDA is his baby. He did it over many, many years. So it's very important that we also look at the affordances, the video, and the new thing called CDA, the Classroom Discourse Analysis Tool, that that provide new way to open up teachers' discussion, or maybe in Rupert's term, it may actually widen the dialogic space for teachers' discussion. They may discuss, but because of this technology and tool that make it more possible for them to have deeper and more productive discourse among the teacher, that's contributing to change. So another element of learning sciences is this role of technology and affordances in dialogic space. Of course, they are nature of learning. It's important for learning science, it's about learning. So here, so Kennedy, that's your turn now. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Carol and Gaowei. So actually, I'm very lucky to have the opportunity to have involved in this project. So learning a lot from Gaowei and Carol. So basically, I was mainly responsible for analyzing the qualitative data and developing the case study. What struck me was the potentials of CDA in the scale up of video-based PD for promoting dialogue practice. I know from prior study that the facilitator is very critical in selecting video clips, facilitating and orchestrating video-based discussions. In other words, successful video-based PD depends very much on the presence of a very skillful facilitator. But when reading the qualitative data, I was convinced that CDA can partly replace the role of a facilitator. For example, when teachers were given the analytic report in form of visualizations, teachers can immediately select the portion of the video clip to focus on for deeper analysis. And I'm thinking that instead of aiming for a single and unified professional development goals as dictated or determined by a facilitator, different teachers can actually personalize the professional development goals based on the analytic report and discuss with other teachers how they can achieve the individualized goals. So overall, I'm thinking that a CDA can be a very useful tool for scale up and sustainability of video-based PD, which is a very important issue. So this is something that I would like to share with all of you and open up for further discussions. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Kennedy and Professor Chen and Dr. Chen for the author team. So now maybe we invite the panelists. Sarah, would you like to go first?
So I'm going to just make a few comments and raise a few questions. I hope that's okay in relation to reading the paper. So I think I want to commend the authors here because professional development for dialogue is a tough nut to crack. I mean, dialogic teaching is known to be challenging. And it's, yeah, this is not an easy space to work in. And my own recent review of the research in the area shows that the results are patchy. The work is fraught with methodological issues. We have lots of short-term, top-down cascade models, varied amounts of take-up from teachers with these programs, usually no link with student outcomes, no follow-ups, and small effect sizes. So this is a problematic space to work in, and I think the authors have done amazingly to achieve the results that they have. It's interesting that their results confirm the literature on some of the common moves that have been developed through PD in dialogue, such as elaboration, building on ideas, inviting reasoning, challenging. Many studies show, though, that the critical evaluation part is often quite elusive. It's more elusive than, building on ideas and so on. I know it underpins the notion of accountable talk, but even where it's been deliberately targeted in PD programs, it's often not emerging, as in the study by Ian Wilkinson and colleagues, who actually set out to develop a kind of evaluatist epistemology. So the sort of the rational evaluation of different points of view during inquiry dialogue, but they weren't able to achieve it. So my first question then is kind of, how far did the teachers go, do you think, in that sort of framework? Okay, I think the study also provides insights into the mechanisms. It doesn't just give us outcomes, it opens up that black box to some extent. And it offers a rigorous comparison with its controlled design, which introduced academically productive talk to both groups, and often those kinds of comparisons are not done. The control doesn't get much, and so that it's fairly obvious when you get an effect. But here there were parallel conditions which enabled the authors to show what the added value was of using the CDA. But I was wondering though, because the comparison groups seem to have about half the input time in terms of the workshop time, half the number of workshops. And I wondered whether the extra time that the intervention group had, just reflecting on practice, could have made some of the difference, or the difference, rather than use of the tool, you know, and how you would know that. Also, there seemed to be a slight decrease in the control teachers' use of 5 out of the 8 moves. And I was wondering how that was explained, because the moves were taught to both groups, you know, even if it was perhaps less effective in the control condition. But we would certainly expect the intervention group to have a larger increase, but wouldn't we expect both groups to show some increase? So I was just a bit confused by that one. But I may have misunderstood something. I also thought the work was innovative in moving away from the sort of selection of clips by experts or teachers, and you using the video and the visualizations very effectively to prompt teachers to reflect on practice with their peers. And we know that this kind of noticing, you know, using video practice is a very powerful tool in stimulating teachers to try out new things and to change their practice. And this study confirms that the strong impacts of being able to revisit sort of specific facets of authentic practice, you know, replay them at their own pace and discuss them with peers. So one question I had though was the representative cases that you mentioned, which are exemplary discourses or problematic ones that require improvement. Were the teachers who were in those cases, were they present at the time of the discussion? Were they the same teachers in the workshop? I kind of assumed they were. If they were, how did they and the viewers respond? The reason I'm asking this is because in my own work, I found that when teachers are viewing colleagues' videos, they're much more willing to critique and move beyond polite comments when the subjects of the videos are not present, unless they're very close colleagues. But given the number of teachers that you had, I assume they're not all very close colleagues. I don't know, that I might be wrong there. But I'm just wondering whether the presence of the person who was videoed being there could have been inhibiting to the discussion. Would it have held back? I mean, there's counter evidence to that, because there's a lovely example in excerpt 2 where it says, where the teacher says, you just repeated every statement your student said, you know, and kind of told them off. And then the teacher took it really well, you know, so that is counter to what I'm saying. But I'm just wondering how common that was. And that would be interesting to know, because certainly I have found teachers being really, really polite and not wanting to say anything negative about the practice they're seeing when a colleague is sitting there. Okay. I think the unique sort of visualization, the visual navigation that you have in CDA really helps the teachers to sort of close in on different parts of the video in a focused way. The paper makes that point with a kind of funneling technique, if you like. So these synchronized representations, you know, immediately help them to see the moves. And we had one quote that was, you know, I want to see what I said that challenged students' ideas, which was a nice quote. But I've added, you know, I want to see what students did when you challenged their ideas. And I'm just wondering, you know, what you think about that, because the scheme focuses only on teacher moves. It you know, by definition kind of thing. And it ignores the responses of students. And of course, students are more than test scores, you know, and I'm just wondering, is there a role for looking at their responses? And if so, you know, how could you do it? Okay, so these are the questions I posed, so you don't have to remember them all. I've put them all on one slide. But I've added a couple at the bottom as well that I haven't yet raised. One is, when we write for publication, there's obviously an emphasis on generalizability and wanting to, you know, be able to, for other people to be able to use these findings elsewhere. I'm wondering, what are the contextual features in your setting that shape the findings and that might constrain generalizability to other contexts? Especially, you know, the multiple cycles that you managed to get them to agree to participate in, the PD culture that you mentioned was present, and the compliance with all of this. I mean, I'm wondering, you know, were they volunteers? It wasn't mentioned whether they had to do this or whether they all signed up for it, and whether there was any attrition. You know, I'm just wondering about that, and whether, if this study was carried out in another country, whether you think, you know, the results would have been the same as opposed to the setting where it was. And then just finally, sustainability. I just wondered if you have any plans to follow up and to go back and see whether the teachers are still using these practices and whether their students are still benefiting and so on, because I think often in this field, we don't know what happens when we leave, and it'd just be good to know. So that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for the questions and all the comments. And maybe we will leave the discussion later when we hear the comments from Miriam.
You're right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you so much to Gaowei, Carol, Kennedy, Charisse, and Lauren for the opportunity to share some comments, and JLS for organizing the webinar. In my work, I've been arguing that that video is particularly valuable for supporting teachers in learning to notice, right? The authors talk about this also, that there's this idea that expert teaching relies on a teacher's ability to notice. There's so much going on in a classroom, you can't pay attention to everything. Instead, teachers sort of decide where to pay attention. And that video provides the ability to help them learn to do so, because with the richness of classroom interactions, but they don't have to respond immediately, really gives teachers time and space to develop their noticing abilities. So I really feel that that's an important basis for the article and for my work. And then I look at the classroom discourse analyzer, which I think is so clever. And it raises a lot of questions. So the authors claim that the classroom discourse analyzer is designed to help teachers locate and replay relevant portions of a video and enhance and focus the efficiency of the professional development. And I really think the data supports your claim about that. You know, focusing teachers specifically on the talk moves, the size of the circle relating, you know, having a way to quickly go back and say, what did I say at that moment, connecting the transcript, all really terrific. And the questions I want to raise are really, who's doing the noticing and what is being noticed? So in terms of who's doing the noticing, I think that focusing the noticing task, as the authors have done, is really essential and can be a very productive move, one that I and others have used many times. The question for me, though, is whether the CDA does some of the work of noticing for the teachers by identifying the questions as related to particular talk moves. And I'm wondering if there's any evidence in the professional development of teachers identifying moments of productive talk, academically productive talk in the videos, or in the moment of instruction. So to what extent do we think it's important that teachers are doing some of that noticing and tagging and evaluating work? My other question is, what is being noticed? So to what extent is the visualization tool a way to notice the video, right? Or do we think that what teachers are noticing more are the list of productive talk moves and their use of those tools? That's not a bad thing. I just want to focus on what it is we think teachers are paying attention to, right? It might be that the APT visualization is what's really standing out. And again, is there any evidence of teachers looking at portions of video where there's an absence of APT codes? That might give us a sense, you know, if teachers are saying, what was I doing here if I wasn't using productive talk? That might give a sense that there's some attention to the video itself. And finally, I just want to mention this idea that I think we should be open to considering new ways, new kinds of learning from video. I think often there's an assumption that learning to notice with video happens after teaching, as teachers reflect on video in the context of conversations with peers around video. But in some early work we're doing, we're finding that learning to notice from video can also happen during the act of capturing video from one's classroom. So I think that's a really interesting part of the study, and in selecting videos to share with colleagues. So I'm sort of wondering, would you see similar results if teachers were asked to select, you know, tell me where in the video you think you're using these, the APT moves the most, and then we're analyzing them themselves. So just some ways to possibly extend the study and think about what else we might learn from this. So thanks very much again. It was a really interesting paper, and I enjoyed reading it and talking with you about this.
Thank you. Thank you for both the comments. There is a clarification question in the chat box. Did you use the talk tours in the first place, and what was the role of that tour? Because CDA helped them to increase the focus of the dialogue, but what got them to start to talk in the first place? So here are the questions that we have. So which one would you like to start?
Thank you, Lily. Thank you very much, Sarah and Miriam, for your insightful comments. I really learned a lot. You asked so many questions, which are really inspiring to us. Yes, and I already think about the future work, yeah, to continue to answer your questions by doing further studies. And I think I could respond to the question in the chat first. It asks about the talk tools. I don't know if you mean the CDA or the academically productive talk. I think you mean how we had the teachers to start to talk in the first place. Actually, the CDA used academically productive talk as a coding scheme, as visualizations. It's a CDA interface. So you can see around here, it talk moves. So CDA actually focused on the 8 types of talk moves, and it visualized the talk moves. And when teachers see their talk moves being visualized, and they sit next to each other, they compare with each other, and they see the difference. They notice the difference. Some teachers would have a lot of talk moves. Some other teachers would have very few moves, and they immediately discuss with each other. And actually, they can click on the talk moves to go to the specific segments to reflect on that. And again, they could, because they sit together, they read each other's transcripts, and they can even watch the videos of the talk moves to see what happened before and after the talk moves. So they had a lot to discuss, actually. Of course, we also, as a facilitator, I also asked the teachers to focus on the talk moves, because I think Miriam also asked about this. Actually, the teachers they had a lot of discussion other than the talk moves. They may discuss about the gender difference, a specific student, or about their accent, a lot of different aspects. But we ask the teachers to focus on the talk moves. And as for the 8 talk moves, they belong to 4 categories. And to discuss the 4 categories, I asked them to discuss one by one. For example, say more, revoice could be one press for reasoning challenge, and then restate, and then agree, add on, explain other. So yes, they follow the guidance to do the discussion.
So just take Miriam's question on who is doing the noticing and what is being noticed. And I really like the comment in this way. And of course, I can see that this work actually fit in quite well with the noticing part, because it's really the design of tools to help teacher with their noticing using the navigation and multiple representation. So I'm not really just even answering the question, but just responding to some of that. Of course, from my perspective about agency, so it is quite important that it is the teacher noticing that not just the CDA doing the noticing part, but the CDA may be supporting. My own question is, sometimes for the dialogue move, there's also something about focusing on noticing APT, the accountable talk one, but how does it really interact with significant conceptual point? So are they also noticing the kind of, not just, oh, I am revoicing, I am agreeing, but these kind of things are also really important mathematic core idea and student thinking that so I'm first just elaborating on the point, not actually answering the question, but making it more complicated, whether the teacher have opportunity to code their thing, and whether we can actually look at more like their dialogue move is also rich in concept.
Yeah, I think I would just add that, you know, if the idea is to remove some distractions and help teachers focus on the video, having teachers use the CDA tool might be another way to do just that, to help them sort of focus their noticing in a particular way. Could be. And I just also wanted to say that I thought Sarah's question about the relationship between the teacher talk and the student talk is really essential, because I think teacher practice is only going to get so far if they're focusing on their talk alone.
Yes, I think I can give a very quick demonstration of the CDA tool, so you can know more about it.
So it is a little bit different from just showing them video clip, and so the focus may be a bit about how you teach, what you notice, and what strategy you use, but then I think that in this kind of circumstances, they are really not just talking about how they teach, or even how they use the move. It's a little bit more of the APT then become the object of inquiry. So I just draw on my other work in knowledge building or in other analytic work. So I think that this is actually a way that may make it a little bit less difficult, because I also work with teachers. It's very hard to show them a video clip and ask them so that they critique their colleague about what they did right or what they did good, and then they will be very kind. And then I kind of feel like this kind of approach, they are really talking about some kind, it's more data driven, it's more evidence driven, it's more analytic driven. So, and it can even not be a personal thing. So it's not just, oh, what do you look at mime and then you, am I talking too much, or am I, it could be a more general, well, you can correct me, but I was just thinking it's more understanding together when you say, oh, here are this bubble, here are this kind of big bubble, small bubble, and teacher-student interaction, why there's so much here and less there. So I feel like this approach or this tool might actually, even though I'm not answering Sarah's question directly, I'm not too sure, but I have the sense that this kind of approach might move the kind of discomfort of criticizing their colleague a bit more, because they are really talking about some general evidence for understanding or how this tool works, how this APT is about, oh, let's look at this kind of bubble. So I do not know whether that's a possible way to even address the problem. So Gaowei, you are the one who collect all, I mean, who design the study. Would you feel like the teacher are inhibited when they are like, or they feel more comfortable when they are talking about these kind of graph from their CDA?
Yeah, I think,
yeah.
Because we did the PD for 5 times. I think at the beginning, in the first time or second time, I arranged the teachers from the same school to sit together so they feel more comfortable. And after that, I arranged teachers from different schools to sit together. Actually, it also worked fine, because they noticed a lot of visualizations in addition to videos or transcripts. Actually, they compared a lot. Some teachers would say, okay, you see, I use a lot of say more, but I didn't use challenge. But for another teacher, he or she may use a lot of challenge, but not many say more. So you see that there are many perspectives, not just to say which teacher is it's better which teachers use the few talk moves, because they have so many things to compare and so many visualizations. I think the process makes it more interesting for them to involve. And also, I think also because all the teachers were from the same district, they know each other because they had regular meetings, regardless of the study, because they met like every month. They belong to the same teaching group in that district. So I think that also helped a lot because they know each other, even they were not from the same school. But I don't know if it would work in another, like in UK or in the US, because in Shanghai, in China, that's a tradition. Teachers from the same district would, the subject teachers would work together, meet together regularly to discuss their teaching.
I think there's another comment and question from Colin Hennessy. It's really interesting discussion, and thank you to the authors for the paper and your work. I'm thinking both this kind of video analytic tools in the sense of future applications. How do you make sure that they are stay as tools for teacher learning and development and do not become used as evaluations? Your thoughts on this question?
I mean, I'll just jump in. I think it's a really important question. And I think it has to do with the whole framing around how we want to use video with teachers. I think, you know, it might seem like a simple point to, you know, have teachers identifying when they're using these talk moves or not. But I think it goes to what Sara said. It's not just whether you're using the talk move or not. You want to look at it in context. What's the conversation that develops around that? So it could never be, I mean, if we move in that direction, it wouldn't be possible for it to be a quick evaluative tool if it's sort of in the context of how it's supporting a broad kind of conversation. Others may have other thoughts.
No, I think that's right. I think it's too complex, this kind of coding for head teachers and others to want to come along and do that as in a way that's evaluative, using it as teacher assessment. It's actually quite a challenging thing to code or to ascertain. Luckily, I mean, it's challenging for us. That's not so good, but it's challenging for others. Is probably a benefit from that point of view.
Thank you, Carol, authors, and all the panelists. It's really nice that we have all the questions and comments from the different expertise discussing about the video-based professional development, dialogical teaching, and student learning, and also how the learning analytics and the tools to support all these areas. It's really nice to have the conversation, and also I think this is one of the main reasons why JLS would like to invite all the panels and authors to join the conversation and have these webinars of this kind. We hope this webinar will be a start for us to discuss on these areas and also open the discussions for more researchers in this area to join the conversation, and we continue to the discussion online and on different areas and then in different networks. Please.
Just want to say thank you. Thank you, Miriam. Thank you, Sara, for your time, for your reading. I really appreciate your comments. Yeah, have a great day.
Yeah,
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sara and Miriam.
Thank you very much.
Really very helpful. Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you, audience. Yes.
Yeah, thank you all the authors and all the panelists for your time and effort to make this webinar possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yes, thanks.
Thank you for the discussion.